Hi, hi. The stalwarts who have stayed till the end of the day. I'm very impressed and very grateful to be here. I think it's a pity that I couldn't have been joined by my political counterparts in the other parties. I'm not sure what the UKIP policy is on cloud, but that would no doubt have been interesting to hear. Certainly, I would have hoped that the Liberal Democrats and Francis Maude, or the Tories, could have been here. But I'm here, and it's a pleasure to be here. It's great that you're having it's great to be invited to a technology conference and to be with people who, I take it, if you're still here listening to me, care both about politics and technology. It's not a big enough group, but hopefully it's getting bigger. And I confess that as an engineer myself, the term cloud has never met my standards of accuracy and precision. But as a politician, I think it's a wonderfully evocative metaphor. And what is more, I think there's something socialist about cloud computing. You know, it's all about sharing. It's ultimately a collective, cooperative approach to computer infrastructure. And I believe it has the potential to democratize computing, leveling playing fields and extending choice to users. Now, for some reason, the product marketing guys aren't too keen that I position cloud as the social housing of computer infrastructure, but I'm working on them. Anyway, what I'm going to do, Stuart, is to talk about the Digital Government Review that we've just published, and then talk a little bit about what that means for cloud. And I think the first time that I came across cloud as a concept was when I was Director of Product Strategy for Global Telesystems, which is a startup with pan-European ambitions that some of you may remember. It was the only time I had the word strategy in my job title, never again since. I preferred engineer. And we spent a lot of time considering how technology in general and the internet in particular would disrupt business and the business products and services people would buy, how it would turn value chains upside down and make business models obsolete, as well as cloud computing. That was the first time I came across terms like disintermediation, co-opetition, remember that one? Clicks and mortar. And my own personal favorite, in the internet gold rush, you don't want to be digging for gold, but selling shovels. Very deep. And much has changed in these last 15 years. And we've seen that lots of value chains have been revolutionized in the media, in retail, for example, but not in government. You know, the relationship between the citizen and government has not changed. And I believe that that is what, whoever wins, that is what the next parliament will be about. And 5 years ago, when I was running as a candidate for Labour for the first time and about to enter politics, the reasons I gave for entering politics were exactly the same as the reasons I gave 20 years earlier for entering engineering. And that was that I wanted to make the world work for everyone, not just a lucky few. And essentially, that's why I launched the independent review into digital government at the end of 2013, with the focus on how we put citizens in control of increasingly digital services, including data, information usage, and particularly in the areas of value creation, consent, trust, and privacy. Because I could see that we were really in danger, and I'll talk about this, of curating a two-tier world in government digital services. And I think it's really important to get these principles right up front, and rather than trying to just keep up with the latest technology. And the review built on Ed Miliband's promise that information on individuals should be owned by and accessible to the individual, not hoarded by the state. It's people's data, actually, not the government's. And all too often, government is something done to the people. So the Digital Government Review took as its basis that there's a need for better integrated services, and I know that's what you're talking about, but which reflect the needs and the capabilities of citizens and their communities. Because there are still millions of households that have no access to the internet, either because they don't want it or because they can't get it. And there are millions more. Today is Internet Safety Day, but there are millions more who do not feel confident using it for one reason or another, be it security, fears, or lack of digital literacy. So we believe that used properly with proper concern for privacy, transparency, and service design, technology can be a powerful tool and reshape how government and citizens interact with each other. But we have to establish the principles by which we operate. And we do, I think somebody, the earlier speaker mentioned, we do want to square, in fact, we have to square the circle of better services which are more individual and local, but which cost less. And we can only do that through digital, and only through an approach to digital that embraces the unique role of the public sector, rather than just criticizing the public sector all the time. The public sector has a unique role in treating people as citizens rather than just consumers, in dedicating itself to long-term inclusion as well as short-term targets, and in admitting that technology treated in isolation from society can worsen many of the problems it purports to solve. So we published the report in November, and it makes 35 recommendations to make digital government work for everyone. And I recommend that you read them. I'm not going to go through all 35. I'll talk to a few of the highlights. But we're studying the report in detail, but I can tell you it provides a comprehensive roadmap for transforming the relationship between government and citizens. We had over 2,000 submissions and responses. Now, I worked for Ofcom for a few years before coming into politics, and we were lucky. We thought we'd done really well if we got about 300 responses, and that was usually from large companies with lots of public affairs people. We got 2,000 responses, and from a huge range. Many from we did an online survey with Mortimer Spinks, but we also got responses from academics, from local authorities, from civil society institutions, and from big SIs, and from small startups. So I think it's also a standalone reference work for current status of digital government, and I do recommend that you take a look at it. So the three big areas the report talks about are, firstly, digital inclusion, and that's what we will put centrally to our digital government approach. And GDS, and I don't know whether the person is still in the room who said that we needed to praise and support GDS, and I agree wholeheartedly with that. It's really talented and a hugely experienced group of people who have uniquely, I think, succeeded in attracting great digital talent into the public sector. And they've created high-quality services, but they tend to have been in sort of headline-grabbing areas rather than building more valuable services that can be used by everyone and that help with some of the country's biggest challenges, such as economic growth, planning, housing, or health and social care. So, for example, renewing your driving license online is fantastic. I used it myself and my wallet was stolen. But actually sorting out the benefit system, that is where the real benefit to the country and to people will be, or sorting out the social care system. So one of the proposals was using social value as well as cost savings as the criteria for choosing what services to take digital. Now, and we've already mentioned this as well, GDS was specifically barred from working with local government, but many local authorities are too small to rise to the challenge of digital, and it's surely unreasonable to expect them to succeed where large government departments have often failed and far greater budgets. So the report argues the need to increase collaboration and reuse to enable all authorities and the people, community and businesses in them to benefit from the scale of the whole sector. And clearly cloud has a role here, which I will talk about in a minute. And the report is especially severe on this government's chaotic approach to data sharing, as demonstrated by, well, there's too many, but care.data, HMRC, and it recommends Labour established a review of data in government, Now, in his Hugo Leung lecture a year ago, Ed Miliband said that everybody would own their own public sector data. That seemed to pass unnoticed. At least it didn't get a lot of media coverage, which was fine in a way, because we are now, at the Digital Government Review, is set out how we can implement that. And we've already agreed that in government we will build on that commitment and principle with a review that will establish a coherent and ethical approach to the use of data within government. And the second big area is on public sector skills and leadership. The Digital Government Review, sorry, the third big area, the digital revolution cannot be confined to certain departments in Whitehall, so all government is going to be digital. And public servants need not only the skills to understand and deliver on this, but also the motivation and the inspiration to inspire citizens to take part in it, working with people as well as for people. So it's not a simple matter to address, and we recognize there are issues of culture and of leadership, of collaboration and of building architectures based on open standards. But by giving people the skills, the control, and the information, we will put them in charge of vastly improved services. And it will be an ongoing revolution, and I am interested to hear, although the review is closed, we are still taking comments, and there is a fully commentable version online at www.digitalgovernmentreview.org.uk. So that's the review. Now, what does it mean for cloud? Well, it's probably worth saying a little about what we mean by cloud, or at least what I mean by it. The first thing I'd say is that in my experience, whatever the problem is, technology is not the solution on its own. It's technology, people, and processes which change things for the better. And I regard cloud as an enabling technology, but not some sort of magic bullet. Though I do love the slides, I don't know whether you had them here, which show, you know, IT systems moving into the cloud and everything suddenly gets better when the sun comes out. You know. But as head of telecoms technology with Ofcom, I spent many months working on the operational separation of British Telecom, and they have some legacy systems there, I can tell you. And that involved separating their systems. And we looked very closely at the technology of virtualization, very closely at it in great detail, in terms of the benefits it brings in cost savings and innovation capability, but also at the concerns around security and service. And I do think there remain concerns in the emerging cloud market. You know, having worked in IT for 20 years before coming into Parliament, I know that the industry makes a huge contribution to the economy and the culture of our society. But I've got to say that, and I speak as a telecoms engineer, security and service often can leave a lot to be desired. So I have been at times somewhat skeptical of the security and service in the cloud industry. And so much so that when Parliament announced it was moving MPs onto the cloud about 18 months ago, I spoke to our Director of Parliamentary ICT and to our Director of Security. And the cloud in question was Microsoft's Secure Enterprise Cloud. And after long discussion, we did come to the conclusion that the biggest risk to Parliament was data sovereignty, and they've been able to resolve that. But also that Microsoft's enterprise cloud security was far better than our existing security, and far, far better, far more secure than most MPs and peers are themselves. And I think the important lesson from that is that the security must be appropriate for the users and for the application. And the users must be knowledgeable enough to determine that. And I think that is a real issue when looking at cloud and local government. And equally with service support and choices that need to be made to customize the user, customize services to the user and applications to the user. Now, I'm sure you're all aware of that, and I don't want to overly dwell on it, but I was somewhat surprised to find in Gartner's annual Hype Cycle report on emerging technologies that cloud was still in the trough of disillusionment. And I was somewhat worried about that because I do believe that cloud has a key role to play in the transformation of government. And I think it's essential that we get it right. And I believe also that cloud is coming into its established market services. And with G-Cloud, there's a route to market for digital government services, which should give service providers more choice, more local for less. And I do want to say that I buy into G-Cloud aims, but as you've already heard, I'm not clear about whether it is working as well as it could. Now, I go around the country talking to the market opportunity of digital government and also talking to local authorities and stakeholders, and I hear very mixed reports. Some suppliers find it still very challenging to get on to the G-Cloud, and it's clearly been subject to misuse, with the process being reversed so that the buyers decide on their supplier and then get their supplier onto the cloud. And digital services framework, again, that's another great idea, but I have got concerns about the implementation. Again, there's a lot of effort required to get on, and there is I'm concerned that it's actually creating a market for body shopping of services rather than actually supporting small and medium enterprises to innovate in the public sector. So we want to make both of those work. And in the Digital Government Review, and I'll just quote recommendation 27, where we said that GDS should build on digital marketplace to support the search needs of different buying groups, to incorporate additional frameworks, and to encourage searches aligned with government policy. And now I also have concerns about the cloud market, the level of competition in the UK, in Europe, and globally, and whether the ubiquity of Amazon Web Services is going to leave public sector denuded of computing infrastructure as it has been denuded of IT skills. I think transparency of key service indicators is also critical, and I think it's the role of government to help put in place a framework to enable cloud to solve the problems of digital government. And I don't think this government has been doing enough effectively to do that. And one example that I'm pursuing at the moment, and that I've had very little progress on, is the effect of refunding VAT for contracted out services, but not for cloud services, which is basically an incentive to outsource services, but not to buy cloud services off the shelf because you have to pay VAT on them. And I've asked Francis Maud and the Treasury, and actually the Department for Local Government, questions on this a number of times, and it's clear that they have absolutely no idea what's happening or whether it should be happening or whether it should stop. So, it might be, you could perhaps also make efforts to find out whether to draw to attention that this may be a barrier to the effective take-up of cloud, particularly locally. Finally, there is another reason why I think it's absolutely essential we get cloud right, and that reason is platform. Now, I'm pleased that after years of thinking that platform and agile are mutually exclusive, this government has finally begun to respond to my calls for broader architectural thinking within and across digital government. I want to see a common government platform that works for both central and local government, whether it's replacing a Spire stack in HMRC or meeting the needs of local authorities. And architecting that platform is a fantastic challenge and opportunity. This government has failed to listen or even to understand the different local needs. There's been a pattern of criticism for poor performance rather than collaboration to try and improve it. And we can't make those kind of mistakes again when it comes to designing and architecting a common platform for the use and reuse of digital services. We need to build something that works for both central and local government. We need to build something for everyone, not just Whitehall. And we need to understand that architecture is not a barrier to agile development. So we've been looking at a concept that we call federated Android model to get across the technical mix of tight, loose standards and federated infrastructure. But we haven't, there's still a long way to go in getting the architecture right, and we need, and government needs, your support and help in achieving that. Because whatever that model is, whatever the mix of federated, so not completely centralized, but not entirely fragmented, common standards, open source, and common platform standards which enable the reuse of software and applications, whether it's in the Department for Works and Pensions or it's in a county council. Whatever that solution is, cloud is likely to be the lifeblood of it. And I do know that is a very mixed metaphor. But the important thing here is not the metaphor, but the actuality. And I think, we need to get the infrastructure right. We need more imaginative and forward-looking thinking. We need a common platform with common standards. And I look forward to working with you in government to achieve that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We've had a couple of hands up already, so...
Oh dear.
Hi, Chi. Harry Metcalf from DXW. We sell stuff to government. Agree with a lot of your aspirations, but I do wonder what are the things that GDS aren't doing in order to work towards this bright future already?
Well, they're not working with local government. I did go through a number of things that went again. They're not... and again, GDS... Sorry? They should work with local government. Work with local government. Also, as I said, using social value as a measure or the test of what services to look at. And then also working throughout central government. I mean, I think GDS have been fantastic in the Cabinet Office, but there were real challenges in working with DWP on the universal credit, for example, and that is where platform and architecture comes in. And just, so gov.uk, again, it's fantastic, but that is a website is actually not a platform, and we need a platform. We need all platforms. Now, Verify could be a platform, but again, that needs to be able to be used and reused by local government. And one of the concerns with Verify specifically, which is the identity assurance, is that there is not a public sector provider of it, and that is going to be a real concern for local government. So that's three things that we need to do differently when it comes to and actually I'll just do a fourth one as well. I don't think it's not about users, which I know is GDS's tagline in a way. It's not about users. It is about citizens, it's about people, it's about co-production. So it's not that people should use services, it's that they should own services and be able to create them themselves. And you've got to see the role of people in digital services in a much broader way than simply as users.
Yeah, hi, I'm Felt from Valtech. We also sell stuff to government as well. I was wondering if you got any kind of comments on the things that Chris alluded to in terms of the power struggle between GDS and CCS and how the supply community...
I wasn't here all day.
Basically, the supply community would probably suggest that CCS are actually neutering the ability for GDS to deliver on their wishes, and there's kind of been a shift in terms of procurement affecting delivery and move away, kind of pendulum swing from G-Cloud and openness to closed systems with DSF, and how, if there is a positive result for you guys on the 8th of May, what you might do to address that swinging pendulum, really.
Right, that's a really interesting. That's another really interesting question, and there are. That goes to the heart of how we, and perhaps that's what you're also getting at, how we implement what it is that we want to do, and the fact that it will take a culture change across the public sector, as well as changes to procurement standards, interfaces, use of common standards, open source. So I think I've heard some very good things about CCS, and some great criticism of the way in which they work. I think we have a very strong vision of the digital transformation that we need in local government as well as in central government. And it is, I think CCS has a role in delivering that, but the, if you like, the change is more important than the processes. Equally, what would you suggest?
I agree with that. It's the outcomes. It's the change and supporting the transformation and worrying, erring on the side of delivery and getting things delivered and services delivered and change delivered, as opposed to kind of making it stay legal and making it difficult. And that's a continuum. It's not a
Yeah, I think there are actually, and I also think, another thing actually, it's more general, it's around procurement, but one of those things this government has been very reluctant to do is to give guidance on the basis that guidance was telling the local authorities what to do and was imposing from the centre. Now, the opposite side of that is sort of leaving your small county council and everybody on their own to figure out their own solutions 444 times over. So I think we would, and that is also a big factor in risk when it comes to procurement, because if you leave it to a legal team in a council which is worried about being challenged and being taken to court and legal fees, they'll be much more risk averse. So I think that is a key. One of the things that we will be looking at very closely is how we can overcome that risk averse through appropriate guidelines to be brave, if you like, and how to be brave, and where government can. I think I did hear somebody say that government can't outsource the risk, and that's absolutely right. But perhaps we can take more risk at the centre and less at the in local government, as it were.
Last question here.
Roy Simpson from MEMSA. Just to make sure I'm absolutely clear, it's quite scary as we move to elections and change and everything. But if
change is scary.
Well, yeah, but I mean, so G-Cloud's working really well, and I've got a hint there that you might change it. Is there a commitment from you that with Labour we will see G-Cloud continue on its course, which has been pretty impressive over the last 3 years?
There's an absolute support for the aims of G-Cloud. There is real concern about the success of its implementation. And as I said, I hear it's great that G-Cloud is working so well for you. I think that's fantastic, and I'd like to, let me have your case study, as it were. But I do hear, as I do hear criticisms of G-Cloud in how you get onto it and how much it is actually being used to as a route to market, to identify suppliers, and that's what it's there for. And I think obviously there's been success and there's been a great increase in its usage, but we are now looking at going, if you like, on the J curve. We need, in the next government, we need to make a rapid increase and transformation, and that needs more effective. That needs to improve the effectiveness of G-Cloud.
Yeah, I'd buy that, but I think part of there's not G-Cloud's problem is as you move into central government, it does take time. You've got some major systems integrators in there with huge, lengthy contracts. So while if you're going to engage with government, you have to accept it's going to take time. And those contracts set to expire, well, literally now over the next 3 or 4 years. And that's when G-Cloud, I think, will come into its own, because we can all criticise we don't get the business we want. And it's been tough for us as well, by the way. But there's the culture of some of those departments, and particularly in local government, and then there's the time frame of those major SI contracts coming to an end. So just my feedback to you would be, we have to let that play its course as well, because they were set for far too long. So some of those departments, while they want to use SMEs, can't at certain stages because they've got to see those contracts out.
I totally agree that the ending of some of the major contracts is an opportunity as well as, in some cases, a challenge in terms of having consistency or continuation of service delivery without being hijacked and various other challenges around. But yes, so I think there is an opportunity, but I'm not, I know change is challenging, but I am skeptical of waiting to change for the moment to be right, Let's seize the moment.
It's some kind of conflicting things there in that for me. And as an SME who's been fairly successful on G-Cloud and who helps drive a lot of change in government, I'm a little nervous, frankly, because, if you discontinue the G-Cloud program or you change the G-Cloud program or where's the criticism coming from that you're hearing? If it's from the larger systems integrators and the larger suppliers...
Sorry, just to be clear, it's absolute... Yeah. Oh, well, there are criticisms from them, but there's a rest... It's not my objective, and we're not talking about discontinuing G-Cloud, but improving it. My objective is to get more smaller SMEs with more innovation having onto G-Cloud, but also having the interfaces, the APIs that enable more smaller SMEs to deliver services and applications to government.
Okay, and that's great, because it's not just us. In what we do, it's a very small part, but there's lots of SME suppliers that are making real change in infrastructure, platform, services. And really what I think we'd like to see is a completely open playing field across government frameworks so that those SMEs can compete evenly against the systems integrators where it's appropriate, or the larger organizations where it's appropriate, to help continue to drive that disruption and challenge and change, and so that we don't end up just accepting bad practice as the norm.
No, absolutely. And I think G-Cloud's doing a lot in that area, but it hasn't overcome all the barriers to entry by any means. And I'd also would... Sorry?
Maybe it was a bit constrained.
Well, maybe... And when you talk about one, an open framework, I don't know whether it's one open framework. I think it's possibly not one open framework, but several open frameworks, yes. And also the barriers in terms of guarantees and other requirements that are barriers to entry for smaller SMEs. We believe very strongly in the ability of government to support the use and critically reuse of small applications providers across central and local government. And that is what, that, if you like, that. So any implied or specific criticism of G-Cloud is in that context, that we want that to succeed. And also, I want more local companies who have, and SMEs who have community roots, who can enable citizens and communities to co-produce the right applications and the right services and the right social care for their particular street or whatever. That is what, making that happen. I don't think G-Cloud right now is totally fit for purpose, if you like, to make that revolution happen.
Okay, I think we need to, unfortunately, time has kind of beaten us. I would like to thank Onwurah, and whatever the outcome on May 7th, May 8th, no doubt we'll be talking again about this. We did ask the other parties to participate today. Unfortunately, they were unable to do so. Other political parties are available, but thank you very much to Onwurah.